Every day I wake up and I feel so alive. I think to myself.
Hey, it's your girl TT, and I am here with my friends, Ani and my Cherie, also my co-host. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Cheeky Cauldron podcast, where no topic is too spicy for the pot. Yes, so last week we had an amazing episode on love and life after divorce. We also had our very first guest on the show, Miss Katenia McHenry, who brought the fire with her book, Life After Divorcing a Narcissist. And that talk was so hot, I thought the studio was going to burst into flames. I mean, like she
that was
brought
a good
it, right?
episode, I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, she brought it. And today we are back with another spicy topic and our final pick for our Valentine's Day romantic spots. Woo! Well, my favorite spot that I picked is Fix. It's Austin's Southern House. So back in December of 2014, Fix came on the scene, and they were one of the most anticipated restaurants back then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they have not disappointed since.
Can I say one thing
yeah.
before you go into it? The name, I never thought about it, is really amazing.
What,
like,
Fix?
go and get your fix. Like, because it's, anyway, but go on.
Yes. I mean, I think he really thought it out because, you know, even the cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
And Ani, I think you'll love this. Chef and owner James Robert, he brought his Louisiana roots into this, y'all.
Dope.
So, but really quick, Fix is located on the ground floor of the IBC building on 6th Street, so on West 5th Street. So y'all better remember that location. And I mean, the Louisiana cooking, he brings into it the shrimp and grits, the crackling fried chicken, the black-eyed peas, and his to die for biscuits.
Them biscuits is good.
Yes, honey, and that's his grandmother's recipe. So you know, a old Southern Louisiana lady, her recipe, them biscuits got to be good.
That was the one thing when my grandmother passed away. She had 10 kids, 5 girls, and they were all sad that none of them learned how to make her biscuits.
Mm.
They were like, she'd do them so quick and like punch them and toss them in the oven. And they were all like, they were the best biscuits and they never learned how to make them.
See, my best friend, really quick, her mom passed away. And the one thing that she wanted, like all the other kids were fighting over stuff, like what, and she was like, where is the paper bag? It was a grocery paper bag that she had rolled up and it had all of her recipes in it. And they didn't even look for that.
That's priceless.
Yes. And she was like, I need to find where that paper bag is.
Yeah.
And she found it.
Love
good.
that.
Yes. Well, we're going to roll out a little teaser for you that we did while we were at Fix. Bryce, can we see that video, please?
Hey, Cheeky Cauldron, what's up? It's your girl TT, and today we are here at Fix, Austin's Southern House.
That menu was sick. I loved my drink.
The fish, I've actually been thinking about it.
I know you feel me when I
There's those
came
biscuits.
through the door.
And that shrimp and grits, that was
Probably
fire.
couldn't help it, it's not fair.
Look at Ani savoring the bites.
Now, surprisingly, that was so good. Those beets were delicious.
Those beets were really good.
Yeah, I
Weren't
don't
they
usually
great?
like
I
beets.
know.
They
They
were-
were amazing. Fried chicken.
There's
That
that fish.
fish. Oh my goodness.
I can't get
Oh, right. Everything was good.
This is making me so hungry.
Honestly, the most romantic thing about this place was how good the food was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
That is really good.
Wow. I love it.
Yes, yes.
Great pick, TT.
Oh, it was. And the food was so good. The service was to die for. So,
So
Absolutely.
we went there a little while ago, but I remember when I first got there, I was like, I don't know how romantic I feel. And by the time we were done, I was like, let's go home. Like that was an aphrodisiac, that food.
no, it is. I mean, they didn't have oysters, which is the aphrodisiac, but the food was so good, the atmosphere. And so would y'all want to go on a first date to Fix?
I would love that.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about, we're doing it also as Valentine's dates, right?
Mhm.
So a first date to Fix, absolutely. But at first I wasn't sure if I'd want to go for Valentine's, like if I would recommend it as a romantic Valentine's spot, but I absolutely would. I think it's a good pick.
I would too, because the lighting and the atmosphere, and it wasn't too loud where you could, get to know each other and talk.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I would definitely go to Fix because I just feel like the way they paired the flavors together, the drinks were delicious, and the food, like everything is just such an aphrodisiac.
It's also kind of naughty. That food is heavy and naughty.
Heavy.
And so that's always fun for Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what Southern comfort food is.
Yeah.
I mean, and it hits you where you need it to hit you. Right in the spot.
Absolutely.
And as Ani did, I'll give it 2 thumbs up. So remember last week, I told y'all want to come back this week because we have been talking about love. We've been talking about dating, the pitfalls of it, marriage, and divorce. But this week, our hot and spicy topic is what y'all want to guess it is. Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about you and me.
Oh, come on. Y'all thought we were going to talk relationships, dating, marriage, and not talk about sex?
I mean, come on. We got to talk about that. Giddy up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so when I first started outlining this show, I thought it was going to be salacious. I thought, sex, we going to have to, bring it down. But that's not so. Guess what I found out, y'all? That Americans on the whole are having less sex. In fact, 26% of Americans report having no sex at all in 2021. And that wasn't due to the pandemic. I mean, we did have less sex because of that, but that
I thought
wasn't.
people had more sex because of the pandemic.
You would think
Yes,
so
you would
because they
think
were locked
so.
up, right?
Yeah.
No, but I mean in general,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
without the pandemic, we wasn't doing it.
Wow.
Mm.
Are they married? Are they single? Or is it all grouped together?
It's
Who are
all
the
grouped
Americans?
together. It's all grouped together. And
Interesting.
and that only rose by a mere 9% in 2023. So we still, as of last year, we're not doing it. And yet another interesting fact is that Generation Z are even more or less sexually active than their cohorts who are 30 to 40 years of age. I find this amazing. I mean, because if people are having less sex, how does that affect the dating or the marriage ritual? What do y'all think?
Whew. Well, I mean, I think that a big part of relationship has to do with intimacy and sex. And so when you take that out of the equation, what kind of relationship is that? It turns more into you're living with your roommate as opposed to actually connecting and vibing with the person that you're in a relationship with. So it's I feel like it's shifting where it's roommates and business as opposed to, hey, the whole point of being in a relationship, dating, marrying is to have that fun cuddle time, in the bed. What? I mean, why would you not want to have that? That keeps the fire and the fuel burning.
But is that for couples who live together and are serious, monogamously dating though? Because if you're just
if you're in a relationship if you are in a relationship, and it doesn't matter what relationship that is, you should be having sex. You should be having sex.
You should be.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry,
There's so much. No, it's okay. There's so much running through my head right now. So, first off, I don't think there are woulda shouldas when it comes to sex. I think it's wherever you are on the sexual spectrum. But the first thing I want to touch on is people's sexual desires going down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has to do with kind of stuff that we spoke about before, about this epidemic of depression. There's foods that people are consuming a lot of that are changing hormonal levels in your brain.
Ooh.
So sex is all about your hormonal levels. That's why when we're teenagers, we were just exploding inside, right? That's very normal because, we were healthy and dance squad, exercising, getting out, breathing fresh air. So your body wants to reproduce. Well, now it's unfortunately, as we're getting older, with all of the computer time, the lack of vitamin D, the diet in America, I'm speaking of specifically, is horrendous. It's killing us.
Horrible.
And there's actual parasites that attach to neuroreceptors in our brains that changes our personality and our sex drive.
Yes.
So even if on like a cognitive level, you're like, I do want to have sex, but my body is like,
that
turn it
also
off.
goes on a quantum level as well in terms of like your chi. And when you're talking about these neuroreceptors, all of that, they all fall hand in hand with like your root chakra. And so when that's blocked, that sexual energy is blocked. That chi is not flowing because you're not eating healthy, you're not detoxing, and you're not cleansing what's in your system. And so I feel like it's all hand in hand. It's the environment, it's food, it's the depression, it's stress, it's all of that combined.
Yeah.
And if you're not working out and exercising,
Yeah.
you know, if you're not taking care of your body, your temple, then yeah, your sex drive is going to be lower.
Yeah.
It just is.
Man, who knew that sex had so many counterparts to go to?
Right.
Like,
Oh,
we got to
yeah.
consider all of that.
Well, and then one thing to consider too, right? Because coming off a divorce, right, is when you're married, and we're not talking about just people dating out in the
Yes,
world,
yeah,
right?
totally.
Has its own problem, it sounds like, with the statistics. But when you're married, there's a whole other psychological component, you know. Gosh, I can't think of her name right now. This famous doctor who wrote this book, Mating in Captivity. She talks about how when you are sort of trapped together, how psychologically
Is that what marriage is, being trapped together?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it feels, and how
A
like
prison sentence.
the roles start to shift, right? Like you're no longer with this like kind of fun, hot, dangerous partner.
Yes.
Now you're with like your mom figure or dad figure, or you know, and it's just the whole dynamic has shifted, and you don't really want the person anymore.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
that's its own thing. That's why I was like, my brain started splitting, and I have to pull up this woman's name. So anybody
Yeah,
wants
well,
to
while
read the
you're
book.
trying to find that, I have to agree really quick with Ani, because this month, my husband and I will be celebrating 18 years of marriage.
Yay!
I know. That's a feat, honey. And I
love
keep telling
y'all.
people, I'm like, and he's still alive, okay?
And 18 years of marriage takes work. And so you got to spice it up in the relationship. And so if you're not putting in the work in order to have that little bit of intimacy, and it could just be touch. It doesn't have to be like, you know, like all the time, like, you know, like sex. Like it's intimacy is more than just about the sex, even gazing into each other's eyes, even having that time together when you go on a date, when, you know, when you have that romantic time.
Yeah.
It's not just about the action of it. It's about how the touch, the feel, all of that. Like that's so important. And we lose that when we get so busy in our lives and we don't take the time to like gaze into each other's eyes, hold hands, and have real conversations because we're so busy doing everything else.
Yeah.
And that happened to me in my marriage when we had kids. It was like the focus was on the kids and not on us. Like I wanted to go on a, you know, like let's go on a staycation, even if it's just in town, just to reconnect.
Mhm.
Why are we not circling back around and reconnecting with the reason why we fell in love?
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to do that. I'm going to tell you, it is work. And then to add on another thing to it, I said before, I'm older than both of you guys, and I
Stop
am.
saying that.
Well, I am, and I am in menopause. So you got to
Men of who? Men of what?
Menopause.
Wait, before we jump into this, because that's the whole topic.
Well,
That's
no, I
what-
wasn't going to like address it. I'm just saying the work becomes even more,
Right,
not only
because your
trying to
hormones
focus
are
on,
shifting.
but then you bring in
Yes.
that element, which that is a whole nother world by itself, which we're going to come back around to,
Mhm.
but that affects your sex.
It does.
Yes.
I just want for people to know the book is called Mating in Captivity. Esther Perel is her name. And a lot of you may have already know about her, but for those of you who don't, it's really eye-opening. And she also deals a lot with infidelity. But that aside, if you're having like sex death in your marriage, I think she has some really groundbreaking ideas. Now, the
Wonderful.
menopause thing, I too am in that phase of
As
life.
you fan yourself.
As I fan myself. And it is definitely a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, have you guys, when you guys were young, was it referred to as the menopause baby? When it was like the sort of late in life
Yeah.
surprise baby?
That
in
happened
marriage?
with
Yeah.
my mom. My like I feel like we touched on a little bit, but my mom had my little brother at 41. And so my little brother and I are 15 years apart.
Okay,
And
at 41.
that baby came out of nowhere. I'm like,
Well,
what?
this whole change of life, baby,
Yes,
is because
yes.
once again, the hormones are like kind of kicking back up. Like it's like this last hurrah. And then, right? Because we go, because our cycle stops. So once again, it goes back to hormonal health. And I honestly think all that would stop and change if the FDA stopped approving all these toxic foods.
Yes.
If the
Absolutely.
baseline of food went back to how healthy it used to be in the 40s and 50s, but it's gotten increasingly unhealthy and it's killing our sex drive.
Yes.
It really
And
is.
so many other things.
Well, good luck with that because we know these corporations are all about money, honey. They don't
Yeah.
care about the
No,
people.
that's
I
not
know.
that's not
You
going
have
to
to-
change. So it goes back to, it doesn't matter what the FDA is putting in the food. What are we doing? How are we taking control of not only like in terms of sex, but also like our health? Like what are we doing to make sure that we have proper nutrients? Are we buying at the farmer's market? Are we growing our own produce? Are we doing things where we take back our power and not give it away to big pharma and not give it away to the government or whoever
I
is
think
in
first
control?
the public needs to be educated that it's even a problem.
Yeah, because if you don't think something's wrong, then
There's
what are you
too
going to
many
fix?
movies. There's too many movies out. Like even you watch Netflix all the time with all these movies, and you were talking about the movie, the food that with the cheeseburger on it, I think, or something like that, and how people started switching to veganism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big hoax as well, because when I was vegetarian and vegan, and when it wasn't cool, I was actually eating vegetables. Now everything is fake meat. Speaking of FDA approved fake meat, what is that? You either eat meat or you don't. Pick up and eat a vegetable if you want to get nutrients in your body.
Yeah.
Fruit.
It's a lot
Things
of
that have
work, though.
seeds.
Oh, you're talking about like the Franken meat, like
Yeah, like
Impossible
beyond-
Burger
Yeah.
and all that.
Which I've never had
Impossible,
an
beyond
Impossible
all
Burger.
of that. It's like
No.
you're either vegetarian or you either eat meat, or you're an omnivore where you eat both.
Well, but
You know,
I don't
so-
think there's one catch-all thing, though, for
Yeah.
everybody because you have to,
Do
at
what's right
the
for your
age
body.
that I am, I know my body now. And I know when it's starting to act up. I know what, even though I know what tastes good to me and I like, because we're all foodies and we love to eat,
Yes.
but I know what does not do good in my body and that I
Yeah.
shouldn't be eating,
Yes.
So
But do you still be eating it?
mind your business.
You still see, that's the problem we have. We know what we should and should not be
Okay,
eating.
but in
we know
moderation.
how to take care of our
but
bodies.
each person needs to start dictating what feels good
Yes.
and tastes good and works with their body. So it's not a
Yes.
catch-all.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna keep going because now we done flipped the switch and we ain't even talking about sex no more. We talking about food.
Let's get back
and
to
what's
sex.
good. So who has better sex? Single folks or married folks? What do y'all think? Because we got two married ladies and one single lady on here.
I don't know.
And I'm just gonna have to throw out, I think maybe single people who are in monogamous relationships and they live together
Are not having
are
as much fun.
are kind of on the spectrum with married couples
Mhm.
because now you got in-house,
I think
And-
this totally depends on the individual.
Yep.
I really do. I think there are people who don't have a lot of religious guilt or association with sex. They're very free with sex. And so single life with sex could be a blast. Then there are other people who grew up with like a lot of stigma around sex.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to have a really good time being single and having, even if you don't have multiple partners, but just not being locked into a committed marriage, right? And then you have married people who I think have horrible sex. I think that it goes into, just this routine,
Yeah.
same thing, Sunday at
They
2
put it on the calendar.
on the
I was just gonna
calendar,
say.
right? And it's like same position, same everything. And then you have married sex that is so phenomenal because you and your partner have been through the fire and back. And that sex is like the pinnacle. So
Yes. It
So
takes
what-
work.
I think it depends on the person.
I want to answer this because we you asked the question. I want to answer it. So I've been married and I've been single, and married and single, I've had great sex both ways, and I've also been in a relationship monogamously and dating and in a relationship, and that was amazing. I believe it has to do with individual as well, and if both people are putting work into making that magical or making that a beautiful experience, it doesn't matter if you're married. It doesn't matter if you're single. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship. Like, you can still have amazing sex, and even regardless of whether you're married or not, if you want it, you can have it. You can have it if you want
I feel
it.
like you're selling a course.
I know. If
Okay,
you
so
want it, you
everybody
can have
sign
it.
up for
Call
Sign up,
888-576
because
Mike Cherie.
it should be enjoy. It should be that amazing.
But I think it goes back to the thought process of each individual person,
Yes.
how they were raised
Yeah.
about
That's
sex,
huge.
what conditions, how they were conditioned about sex. Like, you know, for me growing up, my mom was super strict. And it was always like, don't be letting boys touch you here. Don't be doing this. Don't be doing that. And I didn't have my first sexual experience until I was like 17, who ended up being the father of my son and my husband, you know?
Yes.
And so,
Well, I think in general, even, I don't know how religious your mom was, but you grew up with a single mom, because we discussed that. I grew up in a 2-parent household, very religious family, and sex was absolutely no. Masturbation was an absolute no. And so whenever I got in my 20s, because I didn't have sex until I was in my 20s, I wanted to explore that part of me that I never got to explore because it was wrong. It was bad.
I didn't even know that girls could masturbate. I thought it was something that only boys could do.
really?
I had no idea.
In your 20s.
I had no idea that girls could
So
do
you
that.
were never like in the shower or something and some water ran
I
on your
never
I would
got to
hear
do
jokes
that.
about shower heads and I'd be like, what? Like, I didn't even understand.
I
That's
had to
how
learn.
crazy.
We had to
Dang.
teach ourselves all that later.
So what age was that, Ani?
When I finally learned that girls
Yeah.
could do that, I was in college and I was sitting around with a bunch of my college girlfriends and they were talking about,
Shower heads?
and I finally just asked the question, how does that even work?
Wow.
And I got the education from other girls.
Yes. I
And
bet
see-
that was great.
I mean,
Once you
they
finally.
were definitely they were a lot freer. I think there's a cultural component to this. There was definitely, when I went to college, I was around a lot of different cultures than the one I grew up in.
Mhm.
And there was a lot more freedom around
Yeah.
sex.
Mhm.
There was a lot less judgment.
Yes.
And I thought it was beautiful. I thought, this is so great that these girls don't feel bad about themselves
Yeah.
for having thoughts and feelings and wanting to do things.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I'm going to say, like, growing up in the hood, I never had any discussions about sex with any of my friends ever until I was out of high school. And, you know, me and my best friend, we would talk about certain stuff because she was married at the time and I was like married, kind of in and out of my marriage to my first husband. And so we talked a lot about sex, and like we have a lot of talks
Yes.
now about.
You just made me also think that when I was younger, when I was like, I think like 17 or 18, and my best friend at the time, Carla, we watched 9.5 Weeks. Like, we snuck and watched it, and we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. What are they, you know, like that was like
I
our
don't-
like
I don't know this movie.
experience. It's a very
Oh, girl, with
it's all
Mickey
about,
Rourke?
Yes, yes.
Ooh.
And oh my God.
That was
and
when he was in his
that was my
heyday.
first-
That was before all the surgery?
Yeah, that was
Because back
my-
then, 9.5 weeks, Mickey Rourke could have got it.
I just remember us being so excited under the covers watching it, and we were like, "Oh my God, we're doing this!" We're like, "Is this? Should we be watching this?" It was such a moment that I remember, and you brought that up. Like, we have, you know, with your girlfriend, like that's when it happened for me with my best friend, with Carla. And
But
we
I
were
think
just like-
culturally you are right, because I know like in other cultures, non-Black, those girls, because they start learning how to like, girls that are like 12 and 13 back in my age would be talking about giving blowjobs and stuff
my
like that.
I didn't know.
And I
that.
was like,
I
what
didn't
is
know
that?
anything
I
about
remember
that.
when hello, if you're out there listening, but my first boyfriend, when he asked for that, which I don't think makes him a bad person, right? Like, he knew about it. He asked if I would do that. I was repulsed and thought something was wrong with him.
Yes.
And I was like, what? Like, that is so disgusting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
you would have thought he was like, what's the dude who's locked up right now? The singer?
P. Diddy?
Yeah, R.
Oh,
Kelly.
R. Kelly.
You would have thought he asked me some R. Kelly stuff. Like, I was just like,
You're like, oh my
I told
God.
him it was time for him to go.
How old were you?
I put him out. I don't want to say. I was 16. And then he called me and apologized. He was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Like, he was so sweet about it.
Was he older than you, though?
No, we're the same age.
Same age? Okay.
So I had to ask my brother. I was like, could you believe he asked me that? And he was like, yeah.
I did not.
Like, what rock are you living under?
Well, I'm going to say the same thing with my first husband. Like, he brought that subject up, and I was like,
ew.
I know. Yeah.
like, no.
Like, what is that? What does that mean? Yeah.
But I
you ended up learning how to do
quickly
it?
had to learn.
They teach you. They'll teach you.
They'll teach you.
So, yeah. So
I
for
was
me,
like, who is they? But I get the guy.
So for me, my first boyfriend, Bobby Graham, I met him when I was 16 and he was 17. And we just made out. Like, we would, he'd pick me up in his car and we'd like cruise and watch the stars. But he never said, hey, were you like, and he was such a gentleman. It's like we did all
With
the
a
things.
name like
whatever.
that, he sounds
Awesome.
like a sweet old country boy.
He was so sweet, so country from Lawrence, North
She
Carolina.
is from the country.
He never
Bobby Graham.
deflowered me. He did not. He was such a gentleman, and he knew. And my dad was really strict, and I was scared, so we never did that. And I was never. But like later in life, like in my 20s, I was like, "What? Like, no, I don't want to do that." And then depends on how the penis is, like, if you like it or not, and you end up doing it, and it's like, okay, is it
go
really
ahead
that
and
bad?
talk about it, girl. Can I
Is
say?
it really that bad?
Because you
go ahead.
love a beautiful penis, don't you?
I do. I love beautiful penises.
I know the way
I'm
you
not gonna
describe it is like
lie.
you went and had a conversation with him. So, hello, Mr. Penis.
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so CNS is the month of Battle of the Sexes,
Ooh.
and we're talking about sex. Who do we think sex is more important to? And I'm going to say, people would just jut out there and say men, because
I don't think
it is
I
very
wouldn't jump
important.
out and say that.
No, I know a lot of people who would. They'd be like, well, it's more important to the man because he has the penis and they always want to have sex. But women, it's important to women, right?
100%.
I think it's more important to women than we let on.
That we let
yeah,
on.
I
And a
think so.
relationship doesn't work. It's a two-way street with sex if it's not as important to the woman as it is to the man.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely have experienced couples where it was the woman who was saddened by the fact that, and not feeling wanted, who wanted to have sex, and it was the man who wasn't interested,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And ED is way more prevalent than anybody ever talks about.
Okay, for those out there in La La Land, what is ED?
ED.
Tell us.
Erectile dysfunction.
Okay, if you
So
don't know
when-
what those two
so when-
initials mean.
So when the penis isn't working, right?
Mhm.
It's just how women go through menopause. Men go through menopause too, and their penises don't work the same. It's so common. I think it needs to be talked about because there's men whose whole self is just demoralized because
And
their
wrapped
penis
up
isn't
in their penis.
in their
And that's why
penis.
Viagra was created. And that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of people would think that
Well, that's why
sex
Viagra
is
took off.
Yeah,
It was
sex
created
took
for
off.
heart disease.
Yes.
but-
Oh, okay.
Took off for other reasons.
Well, in my mind, it was created so that the patriarchy could have more stiffies.
I think it's more. I think it's.
Wait,
bigger
hold on.
than
Let me
that.
finish my
Okay.
thought. That is why a lot of us feel like sex is more important to the man because they created Viagra. And I do stand-up comedy sometimes, and I had a joke on all of this Viagra running around. Where is the Viagra for the women? But they have since
Yes.
created a Viagra for women.
Because women would, I also have a lot of female clients who are saddened that they don't have a sex drive. They want to have sex with their husbands. They really want to, and it's gone. And it's like, well, your testosterone is zero. Like, their hormones are jacked up, which then takes us back to the food, which I won't delve into.
Well, but also not just the food. I had to have a hysterectomy, which is why I was thrust into menopause ahead of time.
Which is also, I'm sorry, I have to say, is a surgery that is overly prescribed. There are a lot of women, I'm not saying that you're one of them, but there are a lot of women who are getting hysterectomies who don't need them. And you're right, it is destroying hormone levels and destroying sex drive.
Queen Afua talks about that in her book about hysterectomies and
Who?
how Queen Afua. Yeah, she talks about all of this in her book, but that's another topic. I want to come back around to erectile dysfunction. I think erectile dysfunction is more than what the sex drive being low. I think it has to do with the porn industry and how men who watch a lot of porn are not able to have sex with a real person because they're watching so much porn they can't get it up. I know cases, I've seen it, I've heard stories about men who watch porn, who are addicted to porn, and then they can't get their little wanker up. Okay? That is very common right now. And so it goes back to what we were talking about, connection. We don't have that connection with human anymore because guess what? You can watch it on TV. It's right there in front of your face. And who can do all those things? All these porn stars are doing. Porn was created for men. Sex has always been important to men. And in terms of
But
how
wait,
it
are you
the
answering
sex
her
sells?
question about who you think is more important for? You think it's more important?
I think that the porn industry was created for men, and I think that societal norms puts it all like that. This is what men want, but I think that it should be important to both. I don't think it's either. I don't think it goes either way.
So you think that societal norms is why we're all thinking it's more important to men,
Yes,
but that it's actually important to both.
Yeah.
yes. If
It
you're in
is
a relationship,
important to both because I'll go back to the point of with my being thrust into menopause, I had a whole few years where they like literally slapped an estrogen patch on my butt and sent me home and was like, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm having hot flashes. I'm having night sweats. I'm having insomnia. I'm having all of these things. And the sex drive was low. Because like you said, my hormones were completely off.
Yep.
But I ended up doing the research, much like, when I say the older you get, the more in touch with your body you are. I was like, I have to do something because it was affecting my marriage. It was affecting, our intimacy. So I had to go get some hormones.
Mm.
And I know
Did it work?
it did. Yeah.
Okay.
Girl, that testosterone.
Yeah. Yeah, low T will destroy it. Like a lot of women don't realize that we have testosterone, which I find amazing, but we do. And when it gets low, the sex
then
drive is gone.
yes,
Well,
absolutely.
it's not just the estrogen or the testosterone, but the progesterone.
So once again, taking control of you as an individual and making sure that this is our vessel. Why are we not taking control? Why are you giving power? When you realized that how you were feeling, you went and you took control of what was going on and you said, hey, help me. So finding modalities, like I would do the natural way. I'm still very young. So I haven't had a run-in with not having a sex
Look,
drive.
both me and Ani want to just punch you. Girl, bye.
I don't have a problem.
I
don't
think
wanna
there's
have a
one thing
problem.
that we haven't touched on that's a big one with sex, right? For men and women, and that's stress. Like
Stress,
we
yes.
are in a high stress time. Is that
Oh
coming
yeah,
up?
we it's coming up, girl.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
coming
because
up.
that's a big one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're in high stress time, and also with the economy is people
Yes.
are working themselves to death just to
Absolutely.
keep their heads above water.
Absolutely.
And
And who
it-
has time?
It kills what you were talking about too, just intimacy, and not just
Yes.
with your sex partner, with your friends,
Yeah.
with your
Yes,
children, your
absolutely.
parents. It's killing intimacy all the way around.
Well, let's talk about it. Like, so I think that's what we think about men. Like, they have all this stress. If you have a relationship where the man is the earner and he goes out, he works all day, he brings home the food like a caveman, and he, one, thinks he deserves the sex because he's been out there providing for you all day. But then if that business is not going well and it's like he's stressed out about the money, then we had the bringing back the pandemic thing in, everything shut down, nobody's earning any money. These men now become stressed out and it affects their penis. So but what about women though? We have stress too.
It's affecting women.
Guess what? Sex relieves stress.
But how is it going to relieve stress when they're so stressed out they can't get a heart?
Yeah.
So how is that gonna relieve?
Because it's a mental thing.
And it's hormonal.
And it's hormonal. It's a mental
there's
thing
a
and it's hormonal. It's a
physiological
cycle.
shift.
And the cycle is continuously happening. If your hormones are off based on stress, then you're not going to be able to have this working. It's the same
And
thing
then you're
with women
stressed
who
out
are not-
because then your penis won't work, and then you're, you know.
And women as well. It's
Yeah.
like you're not feeling like you.
Oh
you
no,
know,
I was stressed
yeah.
out when I, at the height of my menopause, I was stressed out because then he's complaining that he's not having enough sex, and I'm like, oh shit, I want to please him, but it's not. What do you want me to do?
Yes,
There's nothing I can do.
absolutely.
It's interesting. I never got stressed out about it, but I also knew what was happening, right? With the
Mhm.
level of stress.
I knew
and-
what was happening.
Oh, I wasn't stressed out. I was just kind of like, you're going to have to just wait until
And was he
I
okay
level
with that?
out. I don't think I was concerned about whether or not he was okay with it.
Who was he? whoever it was at the time, right? Like,
No, I'm talking about my husband. I'm talking about now, like going
now.
through menopause.
Yes,
Right? Like
okay,
I
yes.
knew I was going through menopause. I knew that this is something that I'm going through. So it's like we're married. This is something that we're going through together. We'll figure it out together. I'm sorry that this is frustrating for you, but I wasn't overly concerned about it. And that's why I think knowledge is key. Because there wasn't any like, well, you don't like me, you don't love me. It's like, no, my body is shutting down. And so we have to figure out how to fix that.
It goes the same way when when a woman is pregnant. Look at how her hormones and all that is changing. It's like then you go through this other cycle of like going through perimenopausal, and menopause, and it's like these hormonal shifts are happening, and so the partner that you're with has to be patient and understanding of that happening because it's not a forever thing. Like everything, like it's not a forever. Like there's still life after menopause. There's still life after having children.
But I think that they think because it is a death of, something. And let's just say some women do nothing about menopause and they just go through it and they bare their teeth and they may not ever want to have sex again. Those men in the moment, because I will have to say, like, it got to a point where he was patient, but then it was like, he was like, come on, like, do something.
And I'm aware that my story is very unique to me, right? Yeah. But what I do think is that it needs to be more normalized.
Yeah.
This whole shift needs to be more normalized. And one of the things that if you ever decide to go to a sex therapist, like a couples counselor for like sexual issues, that's one of the things that will be discussed is how intimacy and sex can still happen, but it's not going to look the way it did when you guys first met and you were in your 20s and 30s. Sex looks different as you age for both partners, and to help the man release all his ego and attachment, as you said, to that stiffy. Right? And
boner.
Right. And to realize there's so many ways you can still satisfy your wife, even if that's not happening.
Yes.
Right?
There's many things you can do. There's so
but there are
much.
people who have no idea. They want it to be just the way it was when they were
No, you have to get out of it, but that's all about perception. What is your idea? How do you see, especially when you're married for a long time, it's like you have this tunnel vision of like what you imagine, like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like every time we're in the bed. Like, this is what it's all about. And it's like, no, like, it's not about that because guess what? My body has changed. I've had children. Like, my body looks different. I don't feel sexy. Are you making me feel sexy? I feel different down there. Like it's all those things. It's all of it, It's all the things.
Well,
So I have a question for y'all really quick for the two of you. Do you think, y'all are both married, do you think that like if you does sex, like without sex in a marriage, do you think a marriage will still last without any sex?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
If you're friends and
you're with your person,
yeah,
yes.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, I mean, other than the hiccup we had with my menopause and stuff like that, I think that we are truly, like, really good friends. So
That's what COVID showed us. We had so much fun during COVID, and statistically, a lot of marriages ended. Relationships ended.
Yes.
My husband and I went like this. We were just having fun cooking and making up cocktails. We just had a blast during COVID.
I had fun during COVID as well.
Okay, that's like another story.
I know. We'll come back to that. So, Dr. Lori J. Watson, PhD, had a list 6 truths about men and sex. And so this goes back to thinking that men feel like sex is more important to them, or whoever feels like men are on the food chain, the top of it. And I want to know if y'all think these are true because, for men, sex begins in the body. And women, it's all about the mind, the mental, the, emotional feeling or connection that we get to something. But men can automatically see something and they're ready to go.
Yeah, because men are wired in the frontal cortex here. This is where sex lives. And for women, it's more back here.
Yeah. I call it,
agree.
I'm going to be funny. I told y'all I do a little stand-up comedy and I have a little thing that I haven't done yet, but I call it triangle dick.
What is triangle?
What is that?
Where it goes from their eyes down to their penis and back. No, wait. They see it and it comes to them, goes to their penis.
Oh, and then back out.
Yeah.
And then
No,
back out there,
So like
boing, boing, boing.
it's like they see it and then they want it and they want to
those
do
are
it.
facts.
So yeah,
Facts.
okay.
I
so
agree.
sex
I
begins in
agree.
the body for men.
I agree.
How about for men, sex is like a hunger. It's almost like they desire that chocolate mousse cheesecake. They see it and they get the
want
appetite
it.
starts going and they start salivating and they want it.
Yeah.
Like, but how do we feel for women though? Because it's not, I can't explain it, but like it's very much mental and I have to be in the mood and I have to
it's like it's the predator and you're like their prey.
the prey.
So and I mean I think there's something sexy about that. It's like if there's someone that like is they want it and they're attracted to you, then you just don't give it you just don't give it away. You like make them hunt you. Yeah.
Okay, sex is energy. And we're talking specifically about men. And I think that's true because it's an energy exchange.
Sex is energy for both people.
For both people?
100%.
Yeah.
I agree.
Sex is excitement for men.
For men and women.
And
Exciting.
okay, most men, especially if they don't have ED, they know that an orgasm is the end result. Yeah. Not all women.
How exciting sex is for all women. I think a lot of women feel like sex is work.
Yeah. And not all women, some women have problem reaching orgasm.
Yep, they've never had one.
They've never had one.
Oh, that is
Can you
sad.
imagine your life?
That is so sad.
Ever having an orgasm?
Yeah, that's really sad.
And so, but men know that it's coming eventually. And I think that that's why they like to switch up a lot of positions. Like, I have this
switch positions and
this
partners.
joke about my husband. Like, I say, I don't know any woman who can stand on her head, spin around with a thumb in her butt and a penis in her mouth all at the same time. Because that's how I feel like sometimes that's what they want you to do. Turn around. Show me your butt. Do this. Put your leg up here. Do this. So, like that's exciting for them that they want to do all of this stuff. And yes, doing different positions are fun and exciting, but you can't do it all at once.
No. That's that's too much all the time.
It's too much all the time. Okay, so sex, this is number 5. Sex is the way the man gives love. I think 5 and 6 might be kind of maybe the same. Sex is the way he gives love, and then sex is love for them.
Yeah.
How does that
I was going to say
differentiate?
it's also the way he receives love.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their love language is sex. And that's not how women receive love. Women receive love through deeds and actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We
Fun.
learning some good stuff. So,
okay.
Going back to this battle of the sexes, is sex the answer? Because we, in our first episode, we talked about how the battle of the sexes began and what was happening in dating and marriage, and we're just battling each other. But now we're at a point where we're settled in the battle of the sexes. Can we get over it with
Only
sex?
love will kill the demon.
Only love wins.
I don't think so. I don't think sex is the answer. I think sex will be a happy outcome to solving some cultural issues. I think we have systemic chauvinism running through the country. That is what it was founded on. You mentioned the patriarchy a few weeks ago. So I think we have some fundamental cultural things to address so that we as individuals can relate to one another better. It's that whole thing about divide and conquer, right? So if men and women really learned how to work well together, there's all kinds of industries that would plummet, like the divorce industry.
Yes, I agree. I do believe that we didn't really get to touch on this, but I'm thinking about our first episode where the woman was saying that she didn't want to get out of the car at the Cheesecake Factory. Well, how are we treating our men as the matriarchs? Well, we're talking about the patriarchy, but as the matriarchs, we do have the power. So are we Kardashianizing our men, or are we building them up? Are we bringing them down, or are we building them up? Because I feel like we have the power, actually, to be able to build them up and to be able to have this symbiotic relationship. But I feel like we're at war based on, as the women, we need to be the ones to step into our power and say, hey, we love you, we appreciate you, we respect you. When a man doesn't feel respected, how is he going to treat you? He's not going to treat you well. And so this battle still continues, but I believe it starts with us as the women and how we raise our sons and how we show them how they should treat another woman, how they should treat women. And then all of these things that we're talking about, I think a lot of that will dissipate.
I think that's all well and good if we teach our sons that before they come of age, because then once they're of age and they're out there in the universe dealing with these women and they're treating them like crap, how are you supposed to put your man on a pedestal and treat him and give him all of those things you just said when they look at women as a commodity, and they've Kardashianized us to the point where women are now on Instagram like posing in bikinis and like walking around. Like, look at Kanye's, he chastised Kim for wanting to wear something skimpy, but now his new wife, he's got her in strings and no shoes and walking around.
But she allowed him to put, like, that's what I'm saying. That's her body. He didn't hold a gun to her head and say, hey, wear strings.
We don't know what he's doing to her right now.
Because
she looks like, that's supposed to look like,
seriously.
we like blink twice, sister, if you need some help, we'll come and get you.
No, I believe we are browbeating. I believe that we're browbeating our men, and we need to treat them with respect, and they need to treat us with respect. It's the same way. I feel like it's a mutual respect.
And I know we're coming up on the end of time, but I think it's hard, even if as a mother to a son, who I feel like my son is a decent, good man, will make someone a good husband and father someday. But I'm not just raising him. His father isn't just raising him. Society is raising him.
Especially on the internet.
Especially with the internet, with all the media. The fact that this whole, I didn't know what was going on with Kanye and his two women, but he's not alone.
Girl, you need to get on the gram and see what's happening.
I don't. Like, maybe you don't. That's the answer, right? It's like, just keep that stuff away.
Yeah, keep it away.
Because we aren't just having to deal with our own family issues and our own understanding of things. We're having to deal with a whole cultural perception of male and female. And that's why I'm like, this battle of the sexes is a moneymaker. They need to keep this thing going. They need to keep men and women feeling insecure. They need to keep us
divided. I think it's bigger than us. They need to keep us divided.
Right, because it also breaks up families. And then you have weakened children because the mother and father cannot figure out how to raise them together.
Absolutely. I agree.
So
yes.
Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
we could go on and on.
We could go on, and I don't know if there will ever be an end to the battle of the sexes. But whether you're dating, married, or even divorced, when it comes to relationships, maybe we could all just try a little more love and definitely have more sex. I feel like more sex makes happier people. I'm just going to say that. Yeah.
I vote for more sex.
Of course you do. Of course.
And chocolate.
Next week, we will add even more spice to the pot as we talk everything from the Kama Sutra to polygamy on our new topic, countercultural lifestyles. And of course, we will take you to more fantastic local eats as we discuss what's in the pot. We can't wait, so be sure to join us next week as we continue to stir the pot.
Woo!
See you then.
And remember, joy.
It's my time.